I found out my wife sold our house from a voicemail left by a neighbor named Darren, a guy I barely spoke to but who used to wave when I mowed the lawn. Said he saw movers outside on a Friday morning, everything packed up into 2 vans with out-of-state plates. Thought we were finally moving to that lakefront fixer-upper Lauren always mentioned during dinner parties. That's how casually the biggest betrayal of my life landed, not in a dramatic email, not in a courtroom, but as a friendly update from a man who didn't know he was watching my life being stolen. I was 7,000 miles away when it happened. My name is Cole Mercer, Navy SEAL for 15 years. I've been deployed on missions that technically never happened, worked with people whose names I can't say out loud, done things most men couldn't imagine and wouldn't want to. When you live in that world, you learn to compartmentalize. You box things up, fear, doubt, emotion, and shelve them. You don't let your mind slip, not even for a second. One lapse can get someone killed. I never lapsed. Not once. Not in war. But love? I let that one in. And it gutted me. The voicemail came on a Tuesday. I was at a safe house halfway through a covert extraction op. I hadn't seen a phone that wasn't encrypted in 6 weeks, hadn't spoken to anyone outside my unit in longer than that. The message came through our secure relay, my emergency backup line. I listened to it once. Then again. Then I sat in the corner of that concrete room and went completely still. No anger. No shouting. Just stillness. That's how I get when something breaks. I stop moving. Like my brain turns into a war room and starts reviewing satellite footage of my own life, looking for where the breach occurred. Lauren hadn't said anything in her last few emails. No warning. Just the usual, hope you're safe, and be careful lines. But I'd noticed her replies had gotten shorter. Her end of the video calls colder. Her eyes weren't where they used to be. You learn to read people when you're a SEAL. It's how you stay alive. Lauren had shifted. But I had told myself it was stress, distance, loneliness. I was the one who left her so often. Maybe I had no right to expect her to keep waiting. But I never expected this. After hearing the voicemail, I logged into my secure financial accounts. What I saw wasn't surprising, it was just confirmation. The joint account we shared had been emptied in stages over the past month. At first, small withdrawals, nothing that would trigger attention. Then larger ones, followed by a final transfer of $62,000 to a new bank account in a name I didn't recognize. I opened another window, accessed the mortgage platform, and that's when it hit. The house, my house, had been sold. Not listed. Not pending. Sold. Closed. Finalized. The title showed both our names, with a digital signature from me dated 6 weeks ago. But I had never signed anything. Not from the Middle East. Not in ink. Not digitally. Lauren had forged my name. The sale had been processed, funds wired. And now the house was gone. I stared at the screen, feeling that same cold detachment I used before breaching doors or jumping out of C-130s. The kind of stillness that settles over you before a mission. I knew I couldn't act yet. The op wasn't over. I was still in country, still accountable to my team. But the second I touched U.S. soil, I would stop being Cole Mercer the SEAL and become Cole Mercer the husband whose life had been stripped bare. And I was going to get every piece of it back. I didn't tell anyone on the team. Not yet. There's an unspoken rule about keeping personal distractions locked down during deployment. No one wants to go on patrol with the guy whose head is halfway back home. So I played it cool. I finished the mission. Clean. Professional. Precise. When we finally rotated out, I caught the first available flight back to the States. I didn't text Lauren. Didn't call. Didn't announce a thing. I landed in San Diego with one bag, a burner phone, and the kind of silence in my chest that usually precedes something loud. I rented a car under a different name and drove straight past what used to be our house. The front yard looked smaller somehow. There was a new car in the driveway. New blinds in the window. A wind chime where my old flag used to hang. A stranger lived there now. I parked 2 blocks away, pulled out my laptop, and logged into the security camera app. Lauren had forgotten about that. I had the entire system tied to a secure cloud backup, not just the exterior feeds, but the ones in the garage and the home office. What I saw made my jaw clench. There she was, Lauren, laughing in the kitchen, sitting at the counter where we used to drink coffee. Only it wasn't with me. There was a man in the footage, dark hair, broad build, wearing my old university hoodie. My hoodie. He put his feet on the table, drank from my coffee mug, fed my dog. My dog. I paused the footage and stared. The one thing Lauren knew I loved more than anything besides my job was that dog. A rescue mutt named Ranger who followed me everywhere, who used to wait by the door every time I deployed, who slept on my side of the bed when I was gone. She took him too. That was when something inside me changed. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about identity. She hadn't just left. She had replaced me, sold my home, spent our savings, claimed our life, and handed it off to a man I'd never met. And she thought I wouldn't do anything, that I'd be too far away, too disciplined, too bound by silence. She forgot one thing. I always finished the mission. I drove back to the motel I'd checked into under an alias and called the one man I trusted more than anyone outside my unit, Jackson Blake. Former SEAL, now a lawyer. We'd trained together, bled together. He owed me a favor. I called his secure line. "Cole," he answered. "Thought you were off-grid. Just got back. You don't sound good. I need legal help," I said, quiet and fast. "Give me the details." I laid it out, the house, the forgery, the bank accounts, the unauthorized sale. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I was done, he said one word. "Leverage." "Exactly. You have proof. Security footage, transaction history, and a signature I never made. Come in tomorrow," he said. "We'll build your war plan." I hung up and sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the wall. I didn't feel grief or rage. I felt like I was back in the field, standing outside a compound with breaching charges in hand. Not because I wanted to hurt someone, but because I needed to set something right. The next day, Jackson laid everything out for me. The house sale could be challenged due to the forged signature. The joint account withdrawals could be investigated as marital fraud. The custody of the dog, legally considered property, could be reversed. "You want scorched earth?" he asked. "Or just what's yours?" I stared at the folder in front of me. "Just what's mine," I said. "Let her live with the rest." "She doesn't know you're back?" "Not yet." "Good. Then we've got the element of surprise." Over the next 2 weeks, we built our case. Quietly. Precisely. Jackson filed emergency motions under seal to freeze any further asset transfers. I contacted the notary who supposedly witnessed my signature. Turned out they'd been hired online and never verified ID. That alone could invalidate the entire sale. Meanwhile, I watched more of the security footage. Lauren didn't look like someone who was grieving. She looked like someone who was performing. Her new boyfriend, I found out his name was Mason, had moved in before the sale even closed. He wore my clothes, drove my truck, played fetch with my dog. And Lauren? She laughed at his jokes like I never existed. That's when I stopped watching. Not because it hurt, because it didn't matter. She had made her choice. Now it was my turn. I didn't confront her. I didn't knock on the door or scream in her driveway. I did what I was trained to do. I waited. And when the moment came, I moved. I'll tell you what happened next, how I got back what was mine, and how I made sure she never saw me the same way again. But for now, all you need to know is this. I'm a SEAL. I don't start fights. But I never, ever leave a mission unfinished. The first time I saw Lauren in person after everything, she didn't recognize me. I was parked 2 cars down from her at a shopping plaza outside La Jolla, sunglasses on, hood up, watching her through the windshield as she loaded groceries into the back of the SUV. Not our SUV. That was gone. This one was a newer model, leased in Mason's name, registered to a P.O. box she didn't know I already traced. She moved slower than she used to, wore her stress like makeup, layered on, trying to hide everything underneath. I didn't follow her, didn't approach, just watched her drive away, then checked my phone. Jackson had texted. Judge signed off. Hearing in 5 days. Get ready. 5 days. That's all I needed. It was enough time to set the stage. Not just in court, but everywhere that mattered. People like Lauren, people who don't fight fair, they don't collapse from pressure. They unravel when their illusion cracks. When the perfect picture they sold starts to bleed at the corners. So I didn't attack her directly. I attacked the image she'd built in my absence. I started with Mason. Turns out, Mason Parker wasn't just some guy she met at a gym. He had a history. 2 prior bankruptcies. 1 sealed arrest for wire fraud in Nevada. Multiple LLCs created and dissolved within 6 months. All under different variations of his name. I traced one of those LLCs to a failed house flipping scheme. Another to a consulting firm that had been under IRS audit for the last 3 years. Lauren didn't know any of this. Or worse, she didn't care. She saw confidence and charm. I saw a pattern. So I hired a contact, an old teammate named Reyes, now working private security intel, Within 2 days, he had accessed Mason's current financials. The man had no assets. The truck he drove was in Lauren's name. The condo lease in San Diego? Delinquent for 2 months. He was using her. Or maybe they were using each other. Either way, it gave me leverage. Jackson filed an injunction to contest the house sale, citing forged signatures, procedural errors, and improper notary validation. The motion included surveillance footage, handwriting analysis, and a sworn statement from the notary admitting they never verified my ID. That was our nuke. The legal equivalent of dropping out of a helicopter without a sound and showing up at the door with a loaded breaching charge. But I wasn't done. I wanted Lauren to feel it. Slowly, I changed my bank account security, locked down all pension access, transferred my remaining savings into a veteran-owned credit union she didn't even know existed. She'd already drained what we had, but I wasn't about to let her come back for more when this blew up in her face. Then I filed a motion to regain custody of my dog. Ranger wasn't a pet. He was family. And more importantly, he was microchipped. In my name. Vet records, adoption papers, all listed under Cole Mercer. I submitted it all. Meanwhile, Lauren was still posting like everything was fine. Instagram photos from wine tastings, brunches with friends, videos of Ranger chasing tennis balls on the beach. Mason in the background, shirtless, wearing my dog tags. My dog tags. That's when the rage almost surfaced. Almost. But I swallowed it. Because rage is noise. And noise ruins plans. Instead, I logged every detail. Every location tag. Every timestamp. All of it went into the file. Not for court for me. A digital trail of every moment she thought I was gone. 3 days before the hearing, I left her a voicemail. First contact. My voice was flat. Unemotional. Lauren, it's Cole. I know what you did. I'm back. We'll let the court sort it out. Don't call again. I ended the call and blocked her number. 10 minutes later, she tried calling 5 times in a row. Left 4 voicemails. The first one was frantic. Cole, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're back? The second was angry. You don't scare me. You left. You're the one who chose missions over marriage. The third was quieter. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. We were drifting. I thought you'd understand. And the last one? Just silence. 10 full seconds of it. And then a single breath before the line cut. She knew. The walls were closing. The day of the hearing, I arrived 10 minutes early, suit pressed, hair trimmed, folder under one arm. Mason was there already, cocky, hands in his pockets, like he thought this was a traffic ticket. Lauren sat beside him in a navy dress I'd bought her for our anniversary 3 years ago. She looked smaller in person. I don't mean physically. I mean energy. Like someone pretending to still have the upper hand. She saw me and froze. I gave her nothing. Not a nod. Not a glance. Just walked past and sat down. When our case was called, the judge didn't even look up from the file before speaking. Ms. Mercer, Mr. Mercer has presented compelling evidence that the house sale was completed with a forged signature and improper notary procedure. Do you have a response? Lauren stood. Tried to smile. Your Honor, we believed Cole was unavailable for months. We needed to sell the property for financial reasons. The judge raised an eyebrow. You needed to sell a house that was already paid off? We had debts. You emptied the joint account prior to the sale. According to these records, the funds were not used for debt repayment. Mason leaned in to whisper something to her. The judge cut him off. Mr. Parker, unless you are legal counsel, sit down. He sat, scowling. The judge turned back to Lauren. Forgery is a felony, Mrs. Mercer. I should refer this to the district attorney. Her face drained of color. But Mr. Mercer has stated he does not wish to press criminal charges at this time. She looked at me. I didn't blink. Didn't move. The judge continued. Therefore, the sale is reversed, funds are to be returned, and all title rights revert to Mr. Mercer until further adjudication. Mason stood up. That's not fair. I live there now. The judge glared at him. Not anymore. We walked out of that courtroom like opposite ends of a magnet, her clinging to some last shred of control, me already steps ahead. I didn't say a word. Just walked past her again. This time, she grabbed my arm. Cole, please, don't do this. We can fix it. I turned, looked her dead in the eye. You already did this. I'm just finishing it. Then I walked away. That night, I filed paperwork to formally evict them from the property. Legally, they had 72 hours. But I knew Lauren. She'd be gone before then. She couldn't handle confrontation without control. and I had taken that from her. Ranger was returned to me 2 days later. I picked him up from the county animal control facility where she'd left him, claiming she couldn't keep him in the new condo. He looked thinner, but when he saw me, he jumped into my arms and whined like he'd been holding his breath for months. That's when the emotion hit. Quiet. Raw. Real. I held on to him and whispered, "We're home, buddy." I drove him back to the house, my house, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The walls were bare. The furniture cheap, rushed. Her touch was gone. So I did what I always do. I rebuilt. One room at a time. Quiet. Methodical. Precise. Lauren never called again. Mason vanished a week later, probably to hustle the next woman into flipping her life for his broken promises. I didn't chase him. I didn't have to. He lost. She lost. I didn't. Because I didn't just survive their betrayal. I turned it into a mission. And I completed it. Not for revenge. For closure. For truth. For me. The silence after victory is often louder than the war itself. The house was mine again. Ranger was sleeping on the rug like nothing ever happened. The bank accounts were secured, the title restored, and Mason Parker had disappeared from the city with all the predictability of a man who never intended to stay. But I wasn't celebrating. I was rebuilding. There's a kind of quiet that sets in when the mission ends. Not relief, not peace, just space. I moved through that house like a ghost of the man I used to be. Every corner whispered something I hadn't asked to remember. The dent in the bedroom door from where I accidentally kicked it while carrying Lauren over the threshold on our wedding night. The mark on the kitchen counter from a pan she dropped while making surprise pancakes on my first weekend home from Syria. All of it. Pieces of a life I thought was permanent, now reduced to evidence. I boxed up the furniture she left behind. Sold most of it. Burned a few things, not for drama, but because some objects are too soaked in memory to exist quietly in the same air you breathe. I gave the house new locks, new lighting, new furniture. I repainted every room, starting with the bedroom. No more gray. No more cold tones. Deep green, like pine forests. Like something that could hold life again. I didn't talk to anyone for the first 2 weeks. Just Ranger and the wind coming through the half-cracked windows while I sanded, painted, worked. The work was steady, honest, and it kept the thoughts at bay. But then came the letter. Not from Lauren. From a man named Ethan Grant. Lawyer. Office in Newport Beach. The envelope was thick. Real stationery. I opened it slowly. "Mr. Mercer," it began, "I represent the estate of your late grandfather, James Mercer. You may be unaware, but prior to his passing last year, Mr. Mercer made amendments to his estate plan that now impact your legal standing as a beneficiary." I stopped reading for a second. My grandfather? I hadn't spoken to him in almost a decade. Not since my deployment to Bagram. He was a hard man, strict, proud. Didn't approve of Lauren. Didn't hide it. When I chose her, he'd gone quiet. No calls. No letters. I assumed I'd been written out of the will, wouldn't have blamed him. But this letter said something had changed. Enclosed, you'll find documents indicating the transfer of trust assets previously unclaimed. These include investment accounts, real property, and one personal letter addressed to you, written by your grandfather. I reached the second envelope. Inside was a folded piece of thick paper. His handwriting, still sharp after all these years. "Cole," it read, "I know we haven't spoken. That was my fault. I let pride interfere where love should have led. I watched from a distance as you served your country, honored your oath, and stood taller than I ever deserved to witness. Your wife, she came to see me. Once. It wasn't a good visit. She asked about the trust. About your entitlement. I told her nothing. But I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't asking for you. She was asking for herself. That's when I changed the papers back. Left it all to you. You won't find my name on buildings. I didn't chase legacy. But I do believe in finishing what we start. This is yours. You earned it. Not for what you did, but for who you never stopped being. James." I sat with that letter in my hands for a long time. Not crying. Not even blinking. Just stunned. She had gone to him. Behind my back. Tried to work an angle. Manipulate an old man she barely tolerated into cutting me out of my own bloodline. And somehow, in his final months, he'd seen her for who she was. I didn't know what to do with that. The estate wasn't just sentimental. It was large. Several acres of land in Mendocino. A trust account with 7 figures. Letters. Journals. Keys. It had been waiting for me. waiting while she tried to bury it, sell it, claim it. But now, it was mine. Not because I fought for it. Because I survived long enough to see the truth surface. I drove to Mendocino 2 days later. Took Ranger with me. We stayed in the guest cabin on the property, a wide cedar house on a cliffside overlooking the ocean. I hadn't been there since I was 12. My grandfather used to make us fish at dawn and chop firewood like we were lumberjack apprentices. I'd hated it then. I would have given anything to have it now. The main house smelled like old pine and leather. His office still had a globe with chipped paint. A rifle rack. Family photos, all except one. None of Lauren. I spent the next week going through the house, sorting through old letters, shipping what mattered home. There was a stillness to the place. A dignity. Like it remembered who it belonged to. One afternoon, I found a thumb drive in the desk. No label. I plugged it into my laptop. It held one file, a video, dated 9 months before my grandfather's death. I hit play. The screen lit up. There he was, sitting at that same desk, wearing the same flannel jacket I remembered from every Thanksgiving. "If you're seeing this, Cole," he said, "it means she didn't win. And you're here. That's good. That means something in this world still makes sense." He smiled, but his eyes were tired. "Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let pride keep you from building something new. You lost a woman who never deserved to keep your name. But what you still have, your strength, your mind, your name, that's not gone. That's yours. So go build with it." The video ended. I closed the laptop and stared at the desk for a long time. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't end when the liar leaves. It ends when you stop carrying their poison in your bloodstream. And I was done carrying Lauren. I sold the house in San Diego, my house 2 weeks later. Properly. Legally. This time in my name. I moved into the property in Mendocino and filed paperwork to establish a nonprofit veterans retreat in my grandfather's name. I used the land to build something new. I hired 3 vets I used to serve with guys who'd fallen through the cracks. Gave them jobs. Gave them cabins. We started taking in guests within 6 months, quiet men, haunted eyes, heavy hands. They worked the earth. Learned the pace of silence. We didn't talk about war. We just lived. Some nights, I'd sit on the porch with Ranger at my feet and watch the sun slide down into the sea. And I'd think of her. Not with bitterness. With clarity. She was gone. Not just from my life, from my system. She'd left because she thought I was too far away to matter. She forgot that distance doesn't weaken men like me. It sharpens us. It gives us perspective. She'd spent everything trying to erase me. But in the end, I was the one who endured. Who built again. Who stood taller. Quietly. Permanently. And I never had to scream to be heard. Because men like me, we don't speak to make noise. We speak to end it. I didn't expect to see her again. Not in person. Not outside the courtroom. After the rulings and the silence that followed, I figured Lauren would vanish the way people do when they've run out of narratives to spin. I thought maybe she moved in with someone else. Maybe Mason 2.0. Maybe just disappeared into some quiet apartment where no one asked why she suddenly had no money and no answers. But on a Thursday in early September, she showed up. I'd just come back from a supply run for the retreat, a truckload of lumber and seed feed in the bed, and as I turned onto the gravel road up to the property, I saw the silver sedan parked half in the grass, half on the drive, like it didn't belong and knew it. My heart didn't skip. My fist didn't clench. I felt nothing. Just curiosity. Ranger growled low in the passenger seat. He never forgot faces. I parked. Got out. And she stepped out from behind the car like someone waiting for permission to speak. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. Hoodie. Jeans. She looked more like the girl I met in college than the woman who stole my house. But that didn't move me. "You shouldn't be here," I said. She gave me a tight smile. "I know. I didn't have your number. I didn't know how else to reach you. That was the point. I'm not here to fight." "You're not here at all," I said flatly. "You gave that up." She nodded slowly. "I know. I need to talk. Just once. Please." I stared at her. Said nothing. Ranger didn't bark. Just watched her. Like he remembered every night she forgot to feed him. 10 minutes, I said. "That's all you get." She followed me to the side porch. I didn't invite her inside. We sat in 2 wooden chairs overlooking the slope down to the trees. She looked at it like it was unfamiliar, even though we'd talked about retiring to something like this years ago. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's quiet," I corrected. She nodded again. Looked down at her hands. "I know I don't deserve anything, especially your time. But there's something I never told you. More secrets." I asked. We already played that game. It's not about the house or the money. It's about before that. I waited. Let her talk. Right before your last deployment, she said, I found something in the mail. A letter from your grandfather's lawyer. It said he was amending his estate, that everything was coming back to you. I didn't react. Just watched her. I got scared, she said. I knew how he felt about me. I knew what that kind of money could mean. I thought, if you got it, you'd leave. You left first, I reminded her. I didn't leave, she said, and I raised an eyebrow. No. I tried to hold on, she said. But you were never here. Your body would come back, but your mind stayed in the field. I'd go weeks without hearing from you. Months without sleeping beside someone who looked me in the eyes. So your answer was to replace me? My answer was survival, she said. Mason wasn't the first man who offered attention, but he was the one who made it easy to escape. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted something that felt like real life again. You made your choice, I said. And I made mine. I know. But I came to say I'm sorry. Not because I want anything. Because it's the one thing I didn't give you. And I should have. I stood up. You're 5 years too late. She didn't get up. Just looked up at me with eyes that weren't fake anymore. I know. But I needed you to know that I see it now. What I did. Who I was. You didn't deserve that. No, I said. I didn't. But I also wanted you to know, she hesitated. Mason lied to me too. He left 2 days after you got the house back. Drained what little I had left. I've been staying with a friend. Waiting tables. I let the silence hang. She looked at me then, not like a woman looking at her ex, but like someone facing her own reflection for the first time. This place, she said, the foundation, the mission, you made something real. That's what people do, I said. When they stop running. She blinked fast. Once. Twice. Then nodded. I don't want forgiveness. I guess I wanted you to know I finally understand who you are. I gave a slow nod. I hope you do. Because I'm not the man you left. I'm the one who got up after. She stood then. I won't come back. You don't have to worry. I wasn't worried, I said. She looked like she might say more, but she didn't. She walked back to her car, climbed in, and drove down the gravel road. I didn't watch her disappear. I just turned back to the porch, sat down, and looked at the trees. Ranger rested his chin on my boot. He didn't bark. He didn't stir. He just stayed close. The sun was starting to fall over the horizon, gold bleeding into blue. I sat there until the light faded, then went inside. I didn't feel victorious. I felt complete. Her apology hadn't undone the betrayal, but it had done something else. It had ended the chapter. The silence that followed wasn't hollow. It was full, solid, like stone set in place. The next morning, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Just a folded page. Cole, thank you for listening. I know you didn't owe me that. You may not believe me, but I never stopped respecting the man you are. I just couldn't live in his shadow. That was my failure, not yours. Keep building something good. The world needs more of it. L. I didn't respond. I didn't keep the letter. I fed it to the fireplace and watched it turn to ash. Because closure doesn't come in words. It comes in action. In silence. In choosing not to reopen what you've already sealed shut. And I had sealed it. All of it. I went back to work. We hosted 3 new veterans that week, 2 Army, 1 Marine. They didn't say much. They didn't have to. The land did the talking. The work did the healing. And I was there for them, not because I needed redemption, but because I'd already found it. In the ashes. In the rebuild. In the dog that never left my side. And in the man I'd finally become when I stopped trying to be the one she wanted and started becoming the one I always was. You don't rebuild a life in one moment. You do it brick by brick, word by word, choice by choice, and some days, the only progress you make is refusing to quit. I didn't wake up one morning and feel healed. I didn't stand on a mountaintop and declare myself whole. I just kept showing up. That was enough. The retreat grew slowly. Word spread through veteran networks, support forums, private Facebook groups. Guys who didn't want group therapy or VA checklists. Guys who just needed silence, land, labor, and the chance to feel useful again. We gave them that. I hired 2 more former teammates, Ethan and Rosado. Brought them in as part-time instructors. Taught woodworking. Auto repair. Quiet things that kept the hands busy and the mind steady. We didn't talk about war. We didn't need to. You can see it in the eyes. You can feel it in the way someone stands. I started running sunrise drills for the guys who wanted to move again. Nothing extreme. Just breathing, motion, and sweat to remind the body it was still alive. Every morning at 5:30, I'd walk out with Ranger at my side, coffee in one hand, and I'd see silhouettes already stretching on the field. That's when I knew we were doing something real. Not therapy, not performance, just life, reclaimed and rebuilt. I filed to make the foundation official. The Mercer Project? Not because I wanted my name on anything, because my grandfather left me something worth honoring. We started getting local attention, articles, donations, small grants. One weekend, a journalist came up to write a profile. He was respectful, asked the right questions. Before he left, he said, "Why don't you write this down? Your story. It could help people." I thought about that for a long time. I'd never told the full story to anyone outside my lawyer and my team. I'd never spoken publicly about what Lauren did, or how I lost everything, or how I clawed my way back. But maybe it was time. Not for sympathy. For instruction. Because somewhere out there was another man sitting in a motel room with nothing left but a voicemail and a decision to make. I started writing at night. Nothing fancy. Just my voice, raw and real. The betrayal. The house. The court. The fire and the quiet. I left names out. Didn't point fingers. Just told the truth. What it means to be stripped down to nothing, and what it takes to choose dignity instead of destruction. That story became a series of essays. I published them through the Foundation blog. No social media. No marketing. Just words on a page. Within weeks, I started getting emails. Men I'd never met telling me they felt seen for the first time in years. Women who'd watched their partners fall silent and were trying to understand why. Therapists asking if they could share the essays with clients. I told them all the same thing. If it helps someone feel less alone, use it. The mission didn't end in the courtroom. It began there. Because healing isn't a victory, it's a service. You carry it forward. One day, I got an envelope from the Department of Defense. Commendation. Not for combat. For post-service contributions to veteran recovery and reintegration. I smiled at that. Folded it up. Put it in a drawer. The same drawer that held my dog tags and the only photo I still had of Lauren and me torn down the middle, her half gone. That was the past. Not erased. Just finished. And then came the day I didn't expect. A knock on the door. A man in his 20s. Nervous, eyes down. Said his name was Daniel. He'd driven 3 states to find us. Said he'd read the essays and felt like someone had finally put words to the mess in his head. Said he wasn't looking for therapy. Just work. I gave him a shovel. Told him to start with the garden beds. He worked in silence for 3 hours. Never looked up. That night, he sat with us at the fire pit. Ate in silence. Then whispered, "I didn't come here to be fixed. I came here to survive." I nodded. "Then you're in the right place." We never talked about why he came. We didn't have to. He's still here. Built his own cabin by the North Line. Keeps to himself. Smiles more now. That's the legacy. Not land. Not names. Not even the story. It's what you do with pain when you're done carrying it. You hand it over, piece by piece, and turn it into something that lifts someone else out of their own wreckage. That's what I do now. That's who I am. I'm not the man who was betrayed. I'm the one who turned betrayal into blueprint. The one who built with what they left behind. The one who never gave up on the part of himself they tried to destroy. My name is Cole Mercer. I am a Navy SEAL. I was abandoned, betrayed, stolen from, and erased. But I endured. I rebuilt. And now I teach others to do the same, in silence, in strength, in service. Because that's the mission. And I always finish the mission.